To anyone who cares about what I experienced in the last 2 years, this is my account. Everything that's happened, why things happened the way they did, what lessons I took, what I went through, and undoubtedly, it was the hardest 2 years of my life. But to understand the last 2 years, you have to understand how I ended up in that position in the first place. The first 9 years of my life, I grew up in China. I was just any normal kid. I was never good at academics. I hated academics. I hated maths. I hated writing out Chinese. And my teacher would rip apart my maths books because I just wasn't very good at it. But when I was 9, we moved over to the UK. And I remember before I actually migrated, I only knew of 2 words. I only knew banana and football. But we migrated and I just had to live with that. So we arrived in the UK and I went to a relatively good primary school, and I remember every time we had ICT I'd be taken out of lesson and the teacher would work with me to improve my English. And in about 3 to 6 months I got better and better to a stage where I could communicate, but I still wasn't very good. But you have to imagine, I came over when I was in year 4, and at the start of year 6 I had to take the 11 plus. And that was a thing that you had to take to get into grammar schools, and my mum really wanted me to go to a grammar school. And so I took it. I had to get a tutor. That was a really tough time in my life because I had to get above average grade in English, in writing and creative writing. But it was something that I never touched for the first 9 years of my life. I only knew 2 words. And now they were asking me to write whole essays better than someone who's lived there, who's lived here their entire life. And I just remember thinking to myself that it wasn't fair. All of this pressure on something that I wasn't built to do. But I actually really enjoyed it. And in the end, I got 45 out of 60 in my English, and I got about 30 out of 60 in maths, and I basically scraped the boundary to get into the grammar school. The first 3 years in the grammar school I was pretty bad. My friend asked me if I had paid to get into the grammar school because I just found the lessons boring. Like before, I never really did homework properly, so I wasn't very invested into the subjects. But around year 9, year 10 time, I started getting more interested in politics because I did debating, and I just through debating talked through really interesting subjects at length, in depth, and it sparked interest in debate in itself, but also just purely making arguments for the sake of making arguments, speaking in front of people just to practice that skill, and I really enjoyed it. And I started looking at other people who did so, politicians, made speeches. I watched Obama speak and I thought, he speaks really well. And all of that led to A-levels. My first year was good, my GCSEs were good, I locked in for those. And the first year of my A-levels, I did alright. I was a bright student because debating really helped with essay subjects, and that's all I took. And it meant that when I did essay subjects, I did pretty well. But there was a catch. And the catch is, for the whole of my life, I wasn't a good student. But in the past 2 years, because of debating, because of the things I did, I became good. But I didn't feel like that person. I didn't feel like that person in the class who always got a 9, who always got a good mark in school, because I didn't. I was terrible for my year 11 marks. And so that was tough. Reimagining myself as a person from someone who, I was always called average. I was beaten by my teachers because I wasn't good enough. To then someone who was doing well in class, and I had to really start telling myself that I was capable, that I could do things like this. And that was a challenge because I felt like an imposter. So then you can imagine for university, my mum wanted me to go to UCL. She was like, David, I don't care how you do in your A-levels, just get 3 A's. That's all I'm asking of you. And I remember thinking at the time, okay, she only wants 3 A's, that's fair enough. But then I realised 3 A's was actually pretty hard. I was never going to apply to Oxford. I didn't like the thought of it. I remember being year 12, speaking to James in the year above, a really treasured mentor of mine. He's now at Oxford studying history, and he was applying to Oxford at the time. And I remember speaking to him and saying, James, I don't think I'm going to apply. I don't think it fits me. I like the city, I enjoy London, I enjoy going into London, I like the hustle and I like the busyness of it. I like the opportunity. Because I feel like that was my upbringing in China. It was a busy city. It wasn't like Oxford. It wasn't kind of relaxed, chill. And he said, yes, but I think academically you should go there. And I thought, alright, I'm not a big fan of the city, not a big fan of the vibe. But then I went to the Oxford Open Day. I think that was mid year 13 or just the start of year 13. And it really impressed me. I remember sitting in a history lecture that they put on for the Open Day about typography and the history of Japanese writing and culture. Really niche subject that I was never ever interested in. But then I thought, actually, do you know what? The teaching at this level really sparks my curiosity, really makes me want to learn, really makes me want to become an academic, because I enjoy academics, I enjoyed politics, I enjoyed thinking deeply about things. And for that reason, I thought I'd apply. And then I chucked myself into this whole journey where, whether I liked it or not, my whole vision and impression of myself was challenged. Because when I want something, I really, really want it. It was the same in debating. When I wanted to win the competition, I became not so bothered to them being really, really dedicated. And the same happened with the Oxford application. I remember studying for the admissions test, thinking, you know, a couple of months ago, this was something that I wasn't even going to apply to. And now I'm caring this much. I was getting my teachers to mark my answers, and I was really, really dedicated. And a part of me thinks it wasn't really because of the academics, but maybe the validation that Oxford was able to bring me. Maybe that was something that I didn't really have. Growing up, my parents never really congratulated me on anything. They never went to any parents' evenings. And I used to think that was a good thing, because all of my classmates would be worried about, you know, their parents seeing their bad grade, and I would have a bad grade, but my mum would never turn up because she wasn't very good at English, and she never really took too much care. And when I did achieve something and I told her, the most I would get is like a okay, good. And so the Oxford application almost became a sort of approval for me. It wasn't really about getting an Oxford offer or doing well in the admissions test so that I would get an offer. It somewhat became, you know, this was a really, really good institution, and an offer from here would validate all the work that I put in. It would validate my deepest fear that I was just still that kid who was just mediocre, but he got lucky at A-levels, who got lucky at GCSEs and wasn't really that smart. And to be honest, when I was going through the interviews, I'm not sure I was really chasing that offer. I was just chasing the validation of it all. Of course I wanted to go. I loved it as a city. I really did like Oxford as a city. I think it's calm, I think it's chill. But in the end, I have to admit, it's not my nature. It wasn't where I was born, it isn't where I thrive. And I was almost changing myself in order to receive the validation, making myself into an Oxford student because I felt that's what I needed to feel like I achieved something. And I'm not sure that was the right thing to do. Throughout year 13 then, well, throughout year 12 first, there was a number of health issues within my family that really rapidly deteriorated my mental health. It's difficult to balance everything. It really is. Especially when you're kind of losing that stability, when you're fearing, you know, tomorrow you might not have the person who provided for you. I never told anyone in my audience this, but year 12 and 13 was horrid. It really, really was. I still do, I just really struggle with sleeping, because throughout the day it would be okay because you're with friends, you're scrolling on your phone, you're distracting yourself, but the thoughts come at night and the thoughts become real scary. And I started getting into my own head. All of this combined into a really, really difficult emotional state for me to do my A-levels in. I didn't feel like I had a secure backing. But what could I do? I have to do it nonetheless. And so I did it. Got through my A-levels, not very well. I didn't do the things that made me succeed at GCSE, partly because I didn't have time, partly because I missed a lot of lessons, because I wasn't able to pay attention to the lessons, partly because I didn't sleep well the night before the lessons, and I, at the end of the day, that is my fault, and that's my responsibility. 3 subjects. I got A star, A, B. I needed 3 A's for Oxford. Just didn't get it. I sent them an email afterwards because I had special consideration. I told them that the situation is going on in my family, and they said we'll take that into consideration when your final grade comes out. But they, I guess, didn't want me enough of that. What I like to think is they realised I wasn't really a good fit for them. Through my interview, through my personal statement, through the things I did, they realised that I wasn't really fit to be an Oxford student, because while I enjoy academics, I enjoy it while it's applied. I enjoy it while impacting people, and I enjoy doing things. And I'm not sure that is the mantra of Oxford at the moment. There are people in my comments that sometimes say, are you still caught up on it? Are you still losing sleep over it? And I think it sucks, because it was something that I did really work hard for, and something that just wasn't meant to be in the end. But I am really, really enjoying my time at UCL. And while I don't agree with people saying, rejection is redirection, I do think it's true that your present is what you make of it. And if I was to sit here and really just be upset with myself, live in regret, then yeah, maybe I would still be caught up, but I think I'm doing okay. And every time I talk to my friends who go to Oxford, I'm somewhat glad, because I would not be able to be pumping out 2 essays a week. That would not be enjoyable. Instead, I'm building a business, trying to impact people's lives, and do you know what? I kind of prefer that. So that's the story, maybe not told in enough detail as it should have been, but I don't think I can tell it in that much detail. So apologies for that, but I hope you learned something, which is, first of all, you don't ever know what anyone's going through, so cut them a break. When someone comes into class and they're maybe not the most tidy, maybe they're tired, maybe they're disruptive, maybe you think they're just lazy, but the story is often much, much bigger than that. I know at times I just wouldn't be a very good classmate, I wouldn't be paying attention very much, and it's very easy to just write me off like that, but there was a good reason. And I think the second lesson is, there's nothing bad about chasing validation from external institutions. I just think you're never going to stop chasing that validation until you come to terms with what's happened in your past. And I'm still working on that. But yeah, bit of a different video today. My plan with YouTube right now is just to post whatever I want, and what does well, I'll make a note of it. And at the end of the 365 days, hopefully I'll have a list of things that I've done well in YouTube and I'll be able to put it together. But yeah, thank you for watching. I appreciate your attention. And if you watch to the end, you're a real one. I really appreciate you. Thanks. Bye bye.